So laying on your back or any other comfortable position, we're just going to take a few minutes to settle in. So feel all the points where your body is connected to your mat, and then notice the points where it's not. Maybe the small of your back, the back of your neck, the different parts that are kind of floating, and just use that as just a way to observe your body, observe your space. Close your eyes if you'd like, or if not, just let your gaze be soft toward the ceiling, just letting it float off into space, not focusing on anything in particular. And then begin with the breath, breathing deeply. Sometimes, for those of you who are at the end of your day, sometimes it takes a little more effort to catch those deep breaths at the end of the day. For those of you for whom it's the morning, it might feel a little easier to get into that deep breath that we haven't been racing through our days. So really focus on the breath moving through the entire torso and getting that inhale to the deepest part of your belly that you can before you exhale. And if you'd like, you can even add the 4-count breath or 4-part breath, where you envision the breath coming through the nose, into the throat, into the chest and lungs, deep down into the belly, and then pressing the air back out through those same movements. So kind of visualize the actual parts of your body that the breath is hitting and get it deep down as you can, and then push it back out from the bottom up. As long as your sinuses are clear with the lips sealed and inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Maybe practicing your ujjayi breath if that's the part of your yoga practice, constricting through the throat to heat up the breath as it enters and exits the body. Just settling and breathing. There's a mantra I've had this year that's from one of my favorite folks out in the world. My friends and family know I always talk about this guy, Mark Maron. He had a quote that he kind of repeated all year long amidst the pandemic, and it was, use whatever options you have at your disposal to maintain your sanity without hurting yourself or others. Use whatever options you have at your disposal to maintain your sanity without hurting yourself or others. The breath is one of those options that we all have access to that can help us maintain our sanity. And that's kind of going to be one of the themes today, is accessing some of these things that can help us to find peace and contentment. A couple more rounds of deep inhale and exhale. And then let's begin with some easy movement. So on your back, bring the knees into the chest. Wrap your arms around them. Give them a little hug first. Rock left to right slightly. And then we're going to do this revolving supine twist. So releasing the hands, taking the palms to the floor, we're going to just sway the knees left to right with the legs together. So this can be this really kind of just a rocking motion left to right, nothing too intense or too deep. However, if you want to take it a little deeper and maybe add some core strength into this, then what you can do is take the knees a little lower, but not quite to the floor. And then you'll kind of feel the core heat up a little bit more. So continue to breathe. Just take your palms face down wherever is grounding for you to maintain this movement. And again, you can just take real easy, kind of just massaging the lower back, rocking the legs left to right, or take it a little deeper without taking the legs to the floor. The closer you go, though, the more core strength you'll find. Breathing deeply, maybe the chin is slightly tucked to find that length through the back of the neck. Just a couple rounds here, warming up with some easy movement. And then drawing the knees back into the chest, we're gonna make our way to a seat. So you can either come onto your side and gently press yourself up, or if it feels good, you can take 3 or 4 kind of rocking chair movements here, and then come all the way up to your comfortable seat. Crossing at the ankles, sitting up nice and tall. Let's just roll the shoulders, real big rolls up and down, settling the shoulders as deep down into the shoulder blades as you can. And then with the palms face down, shoulders pressing down, just a little easy neck stretch by taking the right ear over to the right shoulder. Just letting the weight of the head drop over, but keeping the torso upright. Avoid letting your body go with you. Just the head is going over. Nice stretch to the side of the neck. Now keeping that head drifted over to the side, turn the chin toward the shoulder. Just kind of feel that stretch move a little bit more toward the back of the neck. Make sure the shoulders are staying down and relaxed. Bring the chin back up to center, lift the head up and take it over to the other side. Breathe deeply, torso is nice and upright. And then again, with the head still coming over to the side, turn the chin so the gaze goes toward the floor. And then chin comes back up through center, head comes back up. Take the hands out next to you, plant the right hand, lift the left arm over. Just take a big, easy side stretch here. Try and create as much length from your fingertips to your opposite hip bone as you can. So we're not rolling the body with us again. We're just creating a huge amount of opening through the side body. Maybe press the shoulder back behind you a little bit to open the heart. Your gaze and neck can just kind of be where your head is going to naturally land. So avoid like trying to look up or look to any specific place. Just kind of let it go where it wants to go as long as it feels good in your neck. And then take it over to the other side. Again, pressing the right hip down into the floor as you reach the right hand up away. Nice big side stretch. And then again, take that shoulder back, maybe a little rotation of the chest up toward the sky. Breathe deeply. And then let's just flow with that a few times. Inhaling up through center, exhaling over to the side. And then coming back up through center. Once again, roll the shoulders a couple times, practicing always settling them down. And then let's flip over to hands and knees. Go ahead and begin your cat-cow once you're on your hands and knees. Hands directly under the shoulders, knees directly under the hips. And then dropping belly toward the floor, chest lifting slightly, and then reaching spine up toward the sky. Pressing the hands into the earth the whole time so that the shoulders stay nice and strong and stable. Maybe syncing up the breath is a great pose to practice breath with movement. So inhale one side, exhale the other. Doesn't matter which, just whichever feels most natural to you. Really just warming up the spine, getting it moving in all of its possible directions. That when you're sitting or walking, it's just kind of straight or slouched. So really practicing all the movement of the spine. So let's add actually a sideways movement by taking a barrel roll into our cat-cow. So just drawing a circle in the air with your belly button. Still, the hands are pressing down, the shoulders are nice and firm. And then switch directions with that. Both ways. Still breathing. Good. Come back to neutral. Maybe snake the spine left to right. And for our first reading and reflection today, you have the option of either seated or child's pose. So if you feel like child's pose feels good to you to be in for maybe probably 3 minutes, is about how long we'll be here, then you can take the knees wide, big toes together, and drop it down. Otherwise, just flip around and come back to your comfortable seat. If you're in child's pose, make sure your head is resting on something so that the neck can relax. So in whichever pose you're in, seated or child's, take a few deep breaths. In fact, let's take a cleansing breath, inhaling deeply through the nose and exhaling a big sigh, exhale through the mouth. It's kind of a little reset. The readings I'll be doing today are on, I've chosen 3 of the 10 yogic principles. And this book is like a commentary on the Yoga Sutra, which are those principles from that ancient text. So the 3 we'll be reflecting on today is love one another or do no harm, loosening the grip or letting go, and contentment. So I'll read and then I'll have a few questions for reflection. So close your eyes, return to your breath, and just listen for this about 1 minute reading. The first tenet of yoga is to love and to love thy neighbor. Known as ahimsa, that's the Sanskrit word, it is derived from the word himsa, which means violence, and preceded by the prefix that negates that violence. Therefore, ahimsa means non-violence and loving kindness, and is the fundamental precept and foundation for all yogic practice. As simple as ahimsa, or non-violence, sounds, we're warned that violence can have many disguises. There are 3 forms of this violence. The first is acts of violence and harming to the self and others. This extends beyond causing physical harm to include mental and emotional aggression, such as harboring ill intentions, being overly critical of others and self, and any attitude which generates further negative feelings of anger, shame, or resentment. The second form of violence is instigating or provoking acts of violence, and the third is supporting an act of violence through inaction or tacit approval. Ahimsa is the first step on the path of the peaceful warrior. Until we recognize our interdependence and honor others as we would like to be honored, there will be no true peace or equality. Ahimsa is the redirection of our consciousness from judgment to compassion and loving acceptance. Now, take a moment to reflect, perhaps on something in the past year where you have committed the type of harm that's described here, or violence. It's likely been in your thoughts or anxieties related to yourself or others, but it may also be in your choices related to the earth, ethics, or social issues. And now ask yourself, where can I commit to doing no harm in this upcoming year? Just pick one of those areas you may have thought about. Where can I commit to doing no harm in this upcoming year? And really, for me, it's those internal things, my internal aggressions toward myself or others is where I find myself wanting to practice this the most. Just a few more moments of breathing and reflecting on do no harm, ahimsa. What will that mean for you this year? And as we continue through these reflections, I just do want to make the note of, grace and space and all of this. Part of this practice is releasing our expectations for ourselves and others. And so if this feels like a lot of content today, there is no expectation. It's just for you to take what you need from it. And especially after this past year, give yourself the freedom to engage with it just as much as you want and as much as helpful for you with no judgment. So from here, we're going to meet in downward facing dog, or if you like to stay in child's pose, you're welcome to do that. Or you can also come back to hands and knees and just take a few rounds of cat-cow. Again, if down dog isn't for you. Otherwise, hands down, curl the toes under, reach the hips up and back, and take a few breaths to settle into your down dog, maybe pedaling the heels or swaying the hips. We're really focusing on reaching the hips upward, pressing the hands and heart down. So this, for most of us, is going to mean a little bit or a big bend in the knees. So a lot of us, if we go straight legs, it causes our back to round. We really want to lengthen the spine, kind of booty pop the hips, and a little bend in the knees will help us with that. Couple breaths in downward dog or child's or hands and knees if you'd rather be there. Now let's all meet in Uttanasana forward fold. So if you're in down dog, come up on the toes, make a little room to step or hop yourself forward. Everyone dropping in Uttanasana forward fold. If you don't have room in Uttanasana, you can take this half Uttanasana and just focus on lengthening the back crown of the head forward. Otherwise, drop the head, let the neck relax. Very important. It's really easy for us to lift the chin and still be looking toward the floor or forward. But with the head totally dropped, you should be looking behind you through your legs. Even if you're not in a very deep fold, really relax that neck, crown of the head down. You can take the arms in either elbow. You can add a little sway here. Take any movement that you'd like in your Uttanasana. We're going to be here for several breaths, so really settle into it. Letting the spine release, extend, really grounding, soothing pose here. And then release the hands if they're folded, a little bend in the knees. Let's roll, rounding the spine, one notch at a time, coming up to standing. Once you're there, roll those shoulders down and back a few more times. And then we're going to come to a wide stance on our mat, setting up for temple pose at first. So feet and or toes and knees should be angling out in the same direction. Shins should be upright, so make sure your feet aren't too close that their knees are going further out over the legs. Nice and wide stance. Settle down into your squat, however deep that may be. Plant the hands on top of the knees and drop one shoulder into the center and just kind of stretch through the back, bending the opposite elbow, pressing both knees back and away. And then come up through center, take it to the other side. Back up through center, over to the other side. And then one more time. And then come back up through center. Releasing the hands, straighten everything, reach the hands up, and then lower back down. Maybe a little ballet bounce as we flow here several times. Adjust your feet if you need to make sure you're balanced and grounded. And then again, see if you can sync up the breath. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. Really get into the rhythm of it. I'll be here for a few more moments, so even feel free to close your eyes or just adjust your pace to move with your breath. And then this time settling back down into our temple pose, either hands down, or for a little more strengthening work, bring the arms up into about a 90-degree angle, spread out the fingers, and really settle down. A little strengthening work here. Torso is nice and strong and straight, stacked over the pelvis. One more breath. Good. Let's take the hands down, straighten the legs, walk or hop your legs back in to hip distance. We're gonna do our cleansing puffs next. Some of you who come to my class are familiar with these. So it's great for our New Year practice is to really do some intense cleansing breath. So this may seem a little wacky at first, but kind of two options. First, come to a little wider than hip distance with your feet. And you can adjust that as you go to see where you want to be. Make sure there's nothing in front of you or behind you you're going to hit, because we're going to be swinging our arms quite wildly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take these big, powerful cleansing breaths by inhaling and swinging the arms, and then exhaling, kind of puff that air out with power. Little bounce in the knees. And this may feel good as it is. If you have any neck or back issues, then just stay right here with the torso upright. If you want to take it a little deeper, then you can take the whole body forward. Couple more rounds. Not more than a couple. Let the head drop down safely as you come forward. Do two more. And then slowly come back up. Just let your arms kind of swing to a pause. Close your eyes. Bring your hands to your heart. And just settle in. It really gets the heart going there. Again, using whatever tools you have at your disposal to maintain your sanity or peace without hurting yourself or others. Using the breath can just be a really nice reset for our psyche and for our body. Reconnecting with the slow, easy breath. Maybe taking a moment to reflect on your ahimsa, your do no harm thought. And then let's release the hands. We're just going to come into a few rounds of partial sun salutations. For those of you who want to take a full salutation with the chaturanga, you're welcome to add that in yourself. Once again, feet hip distance apart or maybe a little wider, wherever feels good and grounded. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, swan dive, leading with your heart to forward fold, Uttanasana. Lift halfway, flat back, reaching the crown of the head forward. Exhale, forward, back, come back to forward fold. And then root to rise as if you're pressing into the floor, and that's what's causing you to lift up. Hands come up and out and back down through to prayer. Again, inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, swan dive forward. Halfway lift, flat back, strong shoulders. Exhale forward. Root to rise. Little bend in the knees as you press yourself all the way up to standing. Urdhva Hastasana, upward hands. Hands come through Anjali Mudra. Inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift. Uttanasana, forward fold. Press yourself up, Urdhva Hastasana. Hands come through to center. One more. This time we're going to make our way to a seat as we come down. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And as you fold, once again, just bend the knees and take yourself slowly back down to comfortable seat of your choice for our second Yama Niyama reflection. So take a moment to get yourself settled. Make sure both of those sit bones are evenly placed on the floor. Shoulders are down, relaxed. Little tuck of the chin to feel that full length in the back of the neck. Sit up nice and tall. Just kind of sitting tall sometimes is a little workout in and of itself when we really practice on it and focus on it. So really come into that meditative seat. Close the eyes or let your gaze just go softly to the floor as I take us into our second reading on aparigraha, which means non-hoarding. Aparigraha, translated as non-hoarding, means to not hoard in the dwelling places of our homes or of our consciousness. It is an attitude of being non-possessive and keeping life as uncomplicated and as clutter-free as possible. Aparigraha does not imply that we should give everything away, but more accurately describes our willingness to let go of our attachments. It is the personal review and taking of inventory to ascertain our basic needs and what is superfluous on both the physical and psychological planes of our existence. Aparigraha is the intentional development of our capacity to loosen our grip. This is like the heart of this for me. Aparigraha is the intentional development of our capacity to loosen our grip. Do we cling to people or suck them dry with our neediness? Do we need others to need us? As we let go of our obsessions, we recognize that people come and go, and our ability to be self-sufficient is dependent on our self-esteem. If we resort to holding on to grudges, blame, and shame, it not only drains our energy, but poisons our psyche and fixates our attention unnecessarily. We can be poisoned with the toxic emotions of hurt and anger, causing us to build up walls of self-protection, or to erect defense mechanisms that further separate us from an authentic life experience. Aparigraha is our ability to forgive others and ourselves, and to detach from any feelings of injury or incapacitation. Then our life can become rich with a deep and meaningful inner life, fused with intention, offering nourishment to ourselves and the others we come to meet. So now, take a moment again to reflect on something in the past year where you have found yourself holding on tightly to something. Maybe an attachment, maybe finances, a relationship, or for most of us, probably an expectation, or an idea, or an emotion, like shame or resentment. Now ask yourself, where can I commit to loosening my grip or letting go? Take a minute to reflect and set your intention to practice aparigraha, non-hoarding in word, thought, or deed. Where can I commit this year to loosening my grip? Again, just one thing. Just one little intention that you can set to loosen your grip. Few moments here of reflection. Let's make our way back to downward dog. Here comes Toaster. He finished his reflection and he is ready to come back to his pose. Oh, good job. Downward dog or hands and knees. Again, if you don't want to be in downward dog, just come to hands and knees for a moment. We're just going to be here for a couple breaths. And then we're going to step forward. For me, I'll be taking my left leg forward so that when I open up into Warrior 2, I'll be facing my screen. Doesn't matter which leg you take forward. So you can follow me with left leg, dropping the right heel and windmilling yourself up to Warrior 2, whichever side works for you is good. Settling in to Warrior 2 on this side. Now, we may have heard in our Ahimsa reading, and we're going to hear it again in the next reading, peaceful warrior is the pose that is representative of these yogic principles. This is warrior. This one is peaceful warrior. So you can see still a firm, strong, grounded pose, but with no aggression or no attack mode in it. So just a breath here in regular warrior 2. And then we will take it all back to peaceful warrior. Again, opening through the side, just like we did in our seated position. Come back to warrior 2. Straighten both legs, turn the toes, so you can turn your warrior 2 toward the other side. Take a few breaths here. We take several rounds with this, taking it slow at first. Take it back, peaceful warrior, Shanti Virabhadrasana. Shanti means peace. Virabha means warrior, asana means pose. Peaceful warrior pose. Back to warrior 2, and then switch. Continuing to breathe. Warrior 2, Shanti, peaceful warrior. Back to warrior 2, moving with a little more flowiness. Little more quickly, but no pressure to go quickly. You can take this as slow as you'd like, but don't go any faster than I'm going. Nice and slow. Several rounds of practicing our strong warrior stance with our peace and contentment and love. And our flexibility and movement and balance. All of yoga poses are teaching us lessons about how to come into our lives. Toaster left. He did not want to continue. He's had enough. Let's do one more full round after this one, if you're moving with me. Good. Coming back to center, staying here this time, turning the toes forward. Bring the hands to the hips, wide leg forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana. Coming forward, take the hands to the floor or to a block or any other prop you may have once you're down. And really drop it down, let the head hang. I'm going to turn just so I can make sure my voice is going the right way. But you just stay settling in, dropping the head toward the floor just like we do in forward fold Uttanasana. Hands come wherever they, if your hands don't or fingertips don't reach the floor, do try to grab a block or a pillow. You may have a couch cushion to bring the floor up so you have something to ground yourself into. Several breaths here. Adjust the weight distribution between the fronts and backs of the feet. If you're leaning into your heels, maybe bring it forward. And just like in down dog, find that same activation in the hips, really lengthening the spine, pressing the hips toward the ceiling so that the spine is nice and long. Big stretch through the back of the legs. Taking the feet out wide in this pose is not the goal. So bring the feet to wherever you need to be to have this nice, grounded fold forward. Good. If you're folded down quite a bit, lift the torso so you're about at a, Ardha, a half place with the spine, and add in some little easy lunges side to side. You can take them as deeply as you like. You can stay up high. And then heading toward the back of your mat. So kind of the opposite place you started at. Again, it's different for everyone when we're in our virtual space. But for me, that's going to be coming to my right knee. I'm going to spin myself, coming into a low lunge, dropping the left knee down onto the mat. So low lunge, our knee is stacked right over our ankle. Our weight is coming forward of the knee that's behind us so that there's a big stretch through the front of this leg. You can keep yourself propped up here. If your fingertips reach the ground without rounding down and hunching through the shoulders, you can take them there. Of course, if you have blocks, this is really a key pose to use your yoga blocks. So just drop forward, enjoying that stretch and opening through the hips in our low lunge. Breathing deeply, always reconnecting with the breath, especially when we come to stillness and have a moment to remember it. And then straighten that front leg, bringing the toes up onto the heel, half splits. Flex the toes back toward you. Feel the difference that makes through the back of your leg. Not setting the seat back toward the heel, but should be kind of stacked right over that knee. And then let's just flow a couple times back and forth between those two poses. Again, breathing, inhaling and exhaling as steadily and evenly as possible. Good. This time, as we come forward into our lunge, we're going to reverse ourselves back to our wide leg fold. So curl those back toes under, lift yourself up, and then walk yourself back through center. Just take a breath here. We're not going to hold this very long, but do settle in for a breath. Take the head down. Then lifting back up, turning, same thing, turning toward the opposite leg, maybe the top of your mat this time. Right knee comes down, settling in for your low lunge. Again, do that little check. Your shin should be straight up. You don't want this foot back too far behind you or anything like that. If you need a little more space to come forward, you can take the leg out to the side just slightly. Not quite coming into a full lizard pose, but making the adjustments you need to make to get the most out of your hip stretch and hip opener. Which isn't yoga. You say yoga is all about inner peace, but isn't it also just about stretching your hips? Seems to be the theme of every yoga pose is hips, 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 which is great because we hold a shocking amount of tension in our hips, whether you can feel it or not. A couple more deep breaths here in low lunge. Again, blocks, fingertips, or propped up on your knee. And then take it back, half splits. Holding here for a few breaths. Really continually check as we hold this pose that you're flexing the toes back toward you. And you can play with that to notice if you let your foot kind of go neutral, then nothing's really happening in this leg. Flex those toes, little tiny movement, all of a sudden fires up the hamstring. Really gets a good stretch there. A couple more breaths here. And then flowing between the two several rounds. Nice and easy. Back of the neck is long, so the head is neither dropping nor lifting. Always working on our spinal alignment. I guess that's the second. Hips, hips, hips. Spinal alignment. Open the heart. Good. Come forward to your lunge. We're going to take the front knee back to meet the right knee or the knee behind you and drop into child's pose. Knees wide, big toes together. Drop it down just a couple breaths here. Take the forehead to the mat. If it doesn't comfortably reach the mat, grab your block or couch cushion or whatever and give your head something to rest. Even you can use your fist if you don't have access to anything else. Make sure the neck can relax. Hips are settling back toward the heels. Take a couple deep breaths. And then maybe a cleansing breath or two, inhaling deeply and exhaling out through the mouth. Always a good little reset. Bring yourself back up through hands and knees. We're going to make our way onto our back for our third and final reading. And so if you have anything you like for your Shavasana, we won't be getting up again. So make sure your blanket or pillow or sweater, socks are nearby so you don't have to get back up once you're down. So coming onto your seat, bringing the feet out in front of you, knees bent. Take the arms out in front of you and just slowly as you can, round the back and roll yourself down onto the mat. If you're not comfortable laying on your back for a couple minutes, then just roll on to your side or any other position that feels better. You remain there. I'm going to sit up again to make sure you can hear me. Take another cleansing breath or two if you'd like. Maybe take a moment to think on the past two reflections, your do no harm, your loosening your grip, and just kind of bring those back into your consciousness as we add one more reflection and question for our new year practice. So close your eyes, settle into the breath, settle into the body. This third and final, third of the 10 total, but of the third I've chosen for today, Santosha, which means contentment. This is a really good one. They're all really good, honestly. Santosha recognizes that our ability to be at peace is inherent within, without need for an external cause. We are often led to believe that more is better, but as a parigraha, which we just read about, teaches us, we often simply end up craving more. In the end, we do not own our possessions, but are actually possessed by them. Our time and finances consumed with the constant burden of their maintenance and protection. Santosha is our ability to be content, to be comfortable, and at ease. When we recognize that our sense of contentment is self-reliant, we take it on as a personal responsibility and relieve those around us of the encumbrance of our expectations. Santosha causes us to reflect on how life would be if we didn't need someone, didn't need money, recognition, etc. to feel relaxed and content. As we investigate this question, we must contemplate what really brings us our greatest joy. When we recognize that our ability to be peaceful is independent of others, we are less apt to impose inappropriate expectations. I'll read that one again. When we realize that our ability to be peaceful is independent of others, we are less apt to impose inappropriate expectations. Through constant training and of our awareness and paying attention to our attitudes, we can be filled with the inner light of tranquility and radiate contentment and peace. That seems like a tall order, but I do think it's a nice idea. We become the peaceful warrior and take wonder at the contagion of our attitudes and thoughts and how deeply they affect others. This type of self-sufficiency releases us from the poison of entitlement so that we can count our blessings and cultivate the gem of gratitude. So finally, the Santosha, take a moment to reflect on something in the past year where you have been discontent, stressed, anxious. This one should be fairly easy considering all the circumstances of the last year. But again, go more inward with it. So think more on the areas where you have a little more control rather than the external circumstances of the past year that we haven't had any control of. And ask, what have I depended on in order to feel peaceful? What have I depended on in order to feel peaceful? And then for our forward-looking reflection, we're going to go back to that line that I repeated. My ability to be peaceful is independent of others. But let's fill in the blank and make that a little more specific. So maybe other people, maybe other circumstances. But fill in the blank. My ability to be peaceful is independent of blank. What do you need to gain independence from? To find a little bit more peace, inner peace in this coming year. Where do you need to practice independence, releasing your expectations, in order to gain a little more contentment. Not talking about enlightenment, just a little bit more. My ability to be peaceful is independent of blank. Take a minute here to reflect. Feel free to continue to reflect on that if you're still in your thoughts. We're just going to come into an easy and long, like an extended supine twist. So, drawing the knees into the chest, rock left to right a few times, and then pick a side, any side, whichever's calling to drop the knees over to that side and let the heart continue to shine up toward the sky. Opposite shoulders grounded. So both shoulders are on the floor, just the legs are going over to the side. You can take a variation here for those of you who want to modify it to take it deeper or less deep. But also, if you, like me, kind of today, my top leg is kind of floating, like it doesn't quite want to land. So I would recommend grabbing, of course, if you have a block, but just a pillow will do. And take a minute to get up and get it if you need, because it'll really make you more comfortable. Placing a pillow or block in between the knees is going to feel really nice here for many of us, or underneath as well, to bring the bottom leg up. So use the props in order to make yourself really cozy and comfortable. Arms are extended out next to you with the palms facing up, either long or in a cactus kind of shape, or a goalpost shape. It depends on if you're into football right now, then it's a goalpost. If you're not into football, then it's a cactus. Easy. And settle in here. Close the eyes. If you'd like, you can take your gaze away from the knees, over the opposite shoulder. We're going to be here for a little over 2 more minutes, so 3 full minutes on each side. Just really settling into this releasing pose. This is a really, twists are really good for release, kind of draining out the negative, opening the heart for the positive. So you can let your mind go blank here, or if you want to continue to think on one of our 3 principles, do no harm, loosening the grip, or contentment, then you, of course, can take this time to do that. But breathing deeply, not letting go of the intentional breath just yet. Relaxing and releasing, using the exhale to feel your body settle into the pose a little bit more with each breath. Slowly bring those legs back up through center. Take a few balancing movements left to right, rocking the legs left to right, taking circles with the knees. And then go ahead and take your spinal twist over to the opposite side. Get yourself set up, finding those same grounding in the shoulders, palms facing up with the arms either extended out or elbows bent. Option to take the gaze away if you want that little bit of extra twist in the cervical spine, the top section of our spine. Again, using your prop between or underneath the legs so that you can really relax relaxed in this pose. You shouldn't be having to hold anything up. So try to use whatever options you have at your disposal to maintain your coziness and your sanity. Couple more minutes here. So breathe deeply again, using the power of the exhale to just feel that sense of release. Loosening our grip on the past year, on our expectations of what this next year will bring. Always returning to the breath as we forget it and kind of just let our body miraculously breathe for us, which is a wonderful thing that we don't have to focus on breathing in order for it to happen. But do try to get that deeper, steady breath for just another minute here. Practicing the breath, which soothes the nervous system, helps bring the intensity of our emotions, of our stress down a notch. From here, we'll head straight into Shavasana, our final relaxation. But as you draw your knees back into your chest, take any other movement that is calling to you to even things out. Maybe just rocking back and forth a few times before you settle back in. Do whatever you need to do to be ready to come into final relaxation, Shavasana corpse pose, laying flat on your back, or if your lower back feels any tension laying flat, then just bend the knees and let the knees drape in toward one another. Or you can also lay on your side. You can also come to a seat. You can also take legs up the wall, my favorite. But just take this next few seconds to get settled into your final relaxation pose of your choice. Making sure that the back of the neck is long, the chin's not jutting up toward the ceiling, the palms are open on the floor next to you if you're on your back or in legs up the wall. And just take a little body scan. Is there anywhere that you're actively holding tension that you can release? So check your jaw, check your brow and your face. Those are our most common, easy ones to not realize we're gripping. Also check your shoulders, your hands. As much as you can, release and relax. Go ahead and do that. And as we enter into a brief Shavasana, once again, take a moment to reflect on any of those thoughts you had from our three yama niyama, our three principles. Do no harm, loosening the grip, contentment. Maybe just think on the one that stuck out the most to you. And set your intention to practice that in this upcoming year. And I'd also like to, as we begin this new year, to also dedicate, I invite you to dedicate this Shavasana to honor all of those lives that were lost in the past year due to COVID, due to violence, and due to any circumstance. Those of us who have lost loved ones, and just sending that energy out for anyone throughout the globe. Let's dedicate these last few moments to those families, to that grief, and take a few quiet moments of stillness. It is about 10 a.m., so I am going to wrap up our Zoom, but if you, because you're in your home, there's no need to get up and wrap up your Shavasana. So please, I encourage you to remain there. You can just close down your phone, close down your laptop, enjoy your Shavasana for as long as you like. But if you're ready to move forward, then go ahead and find some small movements in the hands and feet. Take a few deep breaths, waking the body back up. And roll off onto one side, slowly pressing yourself back up to a comfortable seat. Bringing the hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. One more big cleansing breath, inhaling deeply, exhaling out through the mouth. I can't thank you all enough for joining me for this special class. Such a joy to see so many faces, new faces, and old friends and family, and my dear local yogis. And I truly wish you a happy and content new year. And I'll see many of you on Wednesday when my normal class returns. And again, if you don't normally get an email from me, and you want to get the notes from this class, then shoot your email in the chat and I will be sure to get that to you. So Shanti, Shanti, peace, peace to you in your new year. Namaste.